In a previous lesson, we learned how to multiply binomials to get a trinomial. Today we're going to learn how to start with a trinomial and go backwards to get the two binomials. Let's look at example 1. To factor a trinomial, we need to find factors of c that add to b. So let's review what a, b, and c are. A is the coefficient of x squared, which in this case is an invisible 1, so a is 1. B is the coefficient of x, which in this case is 7, so b is 7. And then c is the constant, or the number at the end, so in this case c is 12. So we need factors of c, or in this case factors of 12, that add to b, in this case 7. To do this, I'm going to use a diamond, just like you've been doing in your do nows. So I need factors of c. That means numbers that multiply to c, and c is 12. So 12 is going to go at the top of the diamond. And then they need to add to b. b is 7, so 7 goes in the bottom of the diamond. So we need to think of the two numbers that multiply to 12 and add to 7. Pause your video and try to figure them out on your own. Those two numbers are 3 and 4. If you put 4 and 3, that's okay. Now I need to write the binomials. So the first number I got was 3, and it's positive. So my first binomial is x plus 3. It's plus 3 because the 3 was positive. Then I had a positive 4, so my second one is x plus 4. And that's my final answer. If you want to check yourself, you can multiply the two binomials you got using the box method, and you should get this trinomial. Go ahead and pause, and then be ready for example 2. Example 2 is x squared minus 3x minus 40. So c in this case is negative 40. So I wrote negative 40 at the top. And b is negative 3. So I write negative 3 at the bottom. So we're looking for two numbers that multiply to negative 40 and add to negative 3. I want you to try to find those two numbers on your own. If you can't think of it right away, then you might need to start listing out factors of negative 40 till you find two that add up to negative 3. Go ahead, pause, and find those two numbers. So the two numbers you should get are negative 8 and 5. And it's okay if you said 5 and negative 8, as long as you just have the same two numbers. So we need to write the factors. I had a negative 8, so I'm going to write x minus 8. Notice that the negative and the minus sign match. Then I had 5, so my second factor is x plus 5. It's okay if you write x plus 5 and then x minus 8, like if you just switch these two, as long as you have the right sign with the right number. So the 5 was positive, so it needs to have a plus, and the 8 was negative, so it needs to have a minus. And that is my final answer. Press pause and copy this example before we go on to the last one. Example 3 is x squared minus 5x plus 6. I want you to try to set up your diamond on your own, so press pause and figure out which number goes here and which number goes here. Press pause now. So I need two numbers that multiply to 6, because 6 was the constant, and two numbers that add to negative 5, because that was b, the coefficient of x. So now we need to figure out those two numbers. So go ahead and press pause now and try to figure them out. Okay, if you're still stuck, think about how we need two numbers that multiply to a positive but add to a negative. So a positive times a positive equals a positive, but a positive and a positive will never add to a negative. So what else multiplies to a positive number? Well, a negative times a negative does. And a negative plus a negative would equal a negative. So we need two negative factors. So in this case, it ends up being negative 2 and negative 3. Negative 2 times negative 3 is positive 6. Negative 2 plus negative 3 is negative 5. So I need to write my factors. I have a negative 2, so my first factor is x minus 2. And I have a negative 3, so my second factor is x minus 3. And that is my final answer. So that's our last example. I think the hardest thing about these problems can sometimes be coming up with the two numbers that multiply to c and add to b. But remember, you can always find those even if you can't think of it right away, or if you feel unsure about your times tables. You have your calculator, and that's a good tool you can use if you feel stuck. Alright, so at this point, make sure you have everything copied down, and you can go ahead on to the practice. Good luck.